the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks so much. Welcome to 305 Sports Now, and this is 305 Live. And since we are celebrating the fact that this is a Canes Fest week, as Canes Fest will be at the Hard Rock Stadium at 2 p.m. with a practice starting at 3 p.m. and autographs at 6 p.m. I decided to bring in some of the best content creators here that represent the University of Miami, and this man is an unbelievable guru when it comes to recruiting and speaking to recruits as well. This guy just needs no introduction, okay? You guys know him as Rasta. What's up, Rasta, man? How's it going?
I'm good, man. Blessed. Appreciate you having me on, man. How's it going?
Oh, it's pretty good, man. It's pretty good, man. I appreciate you coming on. I know you have a busy work week, and I'm glad you're here to bring us your expertise, especially since we are in the top 3 for the top defensive lineman in the country, Elijah Griffin.
That's big news. That's huge for sure.
Yeah, he's the number 1 defensive player in the country. He's the number 1 player in the state of Georgia. I was watching his highlight videos before we started the show, and he's a freak, man. He's an absolute freak. He is a monster, and his numbers don't lie either. 97 tackles this season, 31 tackles for loss, 17 and a half sacks as a defensive tackle, and also 1 interception. He's not only strong and powerful, he's also very highly athletic. What else can you tell us about Elijah Griffin?
When you watch his tape, man, it reminds me, like you said, the athleticism. It jumps off the charts, like somebody like Justin Scott, right? Very familiar, because most of the time when you think of D tackles, it's trench bullies. You don't think of them as athletes. But when you turn on the tape, you do. You see the guy making interceptions. He doesn't just rush the passer. He doesn't just fill the hole. He does it all, right? Like, and when you're building a defensive line that is just nasty, in the old school Miami, kind of what Georgia's building right now, have been building, that's what you see. You see a lot of guys who have great size and great athleticism. Then when they get down here, you turn them into the monsters that these young men come, and become stars in college.
Yeah, I mean, he's expected to go to Georgia. A lot of people are saying it. He's from Savannah. He's from the city of Savannah, beautiful city. He plays at Savannah State, and he says he wants to stay closer to home. But how much is Miami really in it for? I know being in the top 3 is great. It means you have a hat on the table. Anything can happen. We know that Mario is a relentless recruiter, and so is Big Joe, and so is JT. But how much is it really? How much really is in Miami in it?
I mean, at the end of the day, it boils down to the young man want to stay home, right? Like we preach about it as Canes fans. We want kids to stay at home, and obviously it's the same pitch Georgia is going to use. I don't think we went out here, like you said. I think Georgia leads, and I think the stronghold is just too strong, right? Like, he's taken probably 8 to 9 visits of unofficially to Georgia, and he's already used his official to us and USC. So literally, Georgia has official visit still as a card to dangle over him, right? So it's still gonna be tough. I mean, I would never count Mario out anyways, right? So at the end of the day, it's going to be a fight, and a guy like Mario, who doesn't ever sleep, he's going to fight this, even if he commits this month, next month, whenever. He's still going to fight this pins and needles all the way to the end, right? And I mean, that's not even just for him. That's Mario in general. But yeah, I don't see him coming, honestly, at least right now. We got to see how things play out. And a lot of these young men over the 25 class too want to see what Miami does, right? Not just Elijah. You got Dallas Wilson, we're trying to flip, Josh Moore, right? All these young men, they want to see how Miami does on the field this year. It's been 3 years of, hey, this is what we're building, this is where we're leading. Now it's kind of at that point where it's like, show me, do it on the field, and then we'll probably see what happens in December.
How important is year 3 for Mario? I say he has to take what I call the Norvell jump, where it's got to be 10 wins or bust for the Canes. But how do you feel about that? Do you think it's 10 wins or a little bit more like, 8 wins still would be an improvement?
No, I honestly, I think anything under 10 would be kind of a disappointment, right?
Okay.
You go back and look at last year and you kind of look at some of the mistakes that we made. we should have been a 10-win team, right? Like there's a few things, and we can talk about this every year, right? There's a few moments in every game where something turns, it goes this way, right? And I think if you're a recruit, right, and especially a 5-star like that can go to a Georgia or Oregon or something and be college football playoff contender every year, you're tired of hearing of the what could be, right? And I want to be a part of what is. And when you look at that, we lost a bad game to Georgia Tech, right? We lost a slugfest to Louisville. You lose to a team like NC State or a Duke or a Virginia. They don't want to see that. Whether it's the last second field goal or whatever, those are the games that these recruits are watching to say, are you the same old Miami, or do you turn that around, right? Like the thing with Louisville, we talked about Louisville many times, right? That was a blow for blow game.
Yeah.
All you need is one stop. And as a D tackle, as a big time prospect when you sit the ball, you're watching that. Like when is a guy going to step up? When is a guy going to become a difference maker, right? Whether it's D line or linebacker, you're just looking for that moment. And we didn't really have that last year. Cam had some great moments, but he also gave us some bad moments too. And as a 5-star recruit, that's what you're looking for. If you don't want to see just great moments, you don't want to see the bad ones either. So, and those are big moments where a team like Georgia, who's I think they won 24 in a row or some weird number like that. You see a team like that, bro, and it's like I can just go in there and I'm just fitting right into a system. So this year 3, absolutely, it's a major year for Mario. And I agree with you with the Norvell jump. I would even take a step further in year 3 and say Mario really has to go in that ACC championship game and do more than just, be there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Canes are in a perfect position to win the ACC this season. I think that Clemson is on the way of a decline. For starters, it's kind of evident that losing his 2 coordinators for Dabo Swinney really did affect his team. But even though Clemson's still pretty good, but not accepting the whole transfer portal thing and not being a fan of NIL, eventually he's going to get lapped. College football is going to pass him by. So I think that's where Dabo Swinney is facing right now. JD Pickle, who I saw today, is very, very bullish on Miami. He has them going 11-1 and making the college football playoffs. I have him winning 10 games. I'm not sure where the second game will be lost, but I have him winning 10 games. But Miami always falls for that one, like Georgia Tech with last year, always has that one team that they fall into a trap. They fall into a trap. The team for me this year, my trap game is California. Cal, only because of the travel, and they have a pretty good running back. So I think Miami needs to be very careful in that game. And also, we don't travel very well on the rest of the West Coast historically, even when historically we've had pretty decent teams.
Right.
What teams do you feel, based upon the schedule, improvements, personnel, coaching, that Miami is expected to defeat, but Miami needs to be very careful with?
So it would kind of be like cliche, right? I think every game can be that at the end of the day, right? Like, kind of cliche. But if you're looking at this schedule, obviously week 1 is huge, right? You're going to have some rust to knock off, and, some things to kind of work on regardless. But when you look throughout the season, obviously, like you just pointed out, that Cal game, I don't think we've ever traveled just normally, right? Going to the West Coast like that. We're talking completely across the country. And I agree, it's a long road all the way over there, and you gotta get up for the game because it's only Cal, right? Quote unquote. Like you said, they got a good running back. I like their quarterback. Obviously, he's from down here. But at the end of the day, I think you have a guy like Martinez, a guy like Cam, who just came from the West Coast. They understand they played Cal many times, and I think with a leader like Cam, I don't think that letdown that we've had in years past will so much as to happen. We'll go out here and beat Cal, we'll come home. No, I think they're literally going to take this week by week, and I think you're going to see a different team, every week. I don't think it's going to be the same team, the same Miami that rolls out. I think you're going to see difference, right? Like you're going to see when we go to UF, you're not going to see the same team go to UCF or USF. In that USF game, the following Virginia Tech, you're not going to. I think you really are going to see. Maybe Miami does finally take that hump that Mario Cristobal has been talking about since he got here. But when you're looking at a game that I really do think could be one that can kind of get caught lacking, is that Louisville, the one right before Florida State, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, It's on the road. Yeah, Louisville's a good team. I don't think they're going to just look past them. But it's Florida State the week after. We haven't beat Florida State in 3 years. It's one of those things that, and we've all heard about it. Cam was a Florida State, Miami battle. You got a lot of these recruits that have been Florida State, Miami battles. There's some brotherhoods over there on the other side. Like, there's going to be a lot, right, that you can't kind of look past Louisville sometimes. But I think with Mario realizing, like, last year, like, hey, these dudes are legit. They're not coming to just play. So that's one. And then kind of like that 2017 season, right? Everything was rolling. You get to that last game against Pitt, and you hit a wall, right? That Syracuse game on the road has every implication, like you said, if J.D. Pickler is right, you're going there 10-1. You're coming in hot. Syracuse can be at the end of the year. They're going to have everything rolling as well. Kyle McCord has plenty of experience. So they're going to be up for that game if Miami is in that 10-1, maybe 11-0, whatever they are at that point. They're going to be up for that game. So that would be probably the three that I think we should always have circled. As far as like, hey, we can't get caught here. We gotta come in ready to play for this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that it's funny that not everybody's talking about Syracuse. I don't think Cal McCord is that bad of a quarterback. I just think the fact that he wasn't that mobile and so on is what really drove up a lot of people crazy. But I never thought Cal McCord was a bad quarterback. So, and Syracuse has played teams tough. What's scary about Louisville is that Notre Dame went in there last year. I think they were a top 10 team at the time, and Louisville beat the pants off of them. So, and they're a very well coached team. I mean, a very well coached team. Coach Braum, even though 31 transfers is a lot, they've had 31 transfers come in. I do think that he'll find a place for them and he'll find what works for them to make them an effective football team next year. I think that the D-tackle position will be very important. That's actually what killed them in the AC championship with Florida State. The interior Florida State just feasted. So it's gonna be very important for Miami to do that. So I think that's gonna be a big thing. Going into the Florida game a little bit, how important is, putting rivalry aside, because we want to beat the pants off the Gators, okay, because it's Florida, but putting rivalry aside, how important, if Miami does drop that game, how important is it? Is it important because it's how the season starts, or we have a few games we can bounce back on before things can really get bad?
I mean, I think honestly you could argue that the Florida game is more important than the Florida State game, right? Okay. I think you do vice versa, but I think the Florida game in whole is massive because, one, we are going head-to-head with them every week in recruiting. We're constantly in battles with them. We're constantly going, for the same target. So you got to have that say-so, hey, I beat them at the end of the day. And obviously, yeah, you never want to lose to your rival, especially in-state, especially Florida, who's very hated. I mean, I don't know about the rest, but I can't stand them. So, I would almost tell you, bro, that might be the most important game on the schedule. Yes, because week one, if that happens, you start, season hot going into Louisville, you should, you'll be favored all the way across. But I think the momentum, the mindset that it would help our team in general, like if you win that game, you win into the Swamp, right? Which I think is one of the most overhyped environments there is. But it's the outlook, right? You go into the Swamp, you beat UF, whether it's by 1 point or whether it's by 30 points, whatever it is, you still won. Now you can sit here and say, hey, we did our thing. Y'all need to stop going there, and we're actually building something over here. And then I think that would honestly be the downcline for Florida, because if Florida wins that game, they probably start the season 5-0. And you're looking at us, they would have the upper hand. So, and I think if they lose, that kind of kills their mindset, their mentality, maybe for the rest of the season. I don't know, So that game has big time implications on it for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think it's important because as Canes fans, you want to start off beating your rival first and foremost. It's a major game. It's going to be televised 3:30 ABC. But I do think, though, from optics, Miami could bounce back record-wise because they have some cupcakes coming up after like Ball State and FAMU. Florida, the whole season's murderer's row for them. I mean, if they win 4 games, it's considered a miracle, according to what people believe. That's where I think the major differences between Miami and Florida are. But I do think though it is important in the case of recruiting, because Miami wants to flip Joshua Moore, who's committed to Florida, and he seems to be very open to Miami, from what I've heard, according to people on On3 and so on their platform. If Miami wins this game, do you think Joshua Moore flips or just flat out decommits from Florida and gives other schools a look?
I don't think he decommits anytime soon.
Okay.
I mean, anything can happen in recruiting, right? But I think if Miami walks up and there's going to be tons of recruits there. Like the names I've already got on the list is we're talking upwards of 100 big chip guys, right? That game is going to be sold out. And if Miami goes up there, does what they're supposed to in front of all these recruits, you're going to have guys going home now having a serious talk with the families, not just Joshua Moore, right? Like there's going to be other guys there. And I think that game alone is going to springboard some future decommitments, not only for Florida, because Miami we would be doing what we've been talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So I think eventually, over time, yeah, Joshua Moore will probably decommit. I don't think he just flips and anything is possible, right? But I think he decommits a little later. Maybe if Florida really does fall flat on the face, and then gives Miami that visit. He's going to be on campus a couple of times for some games. And same with some others like Dallas Wilson, DJ Pickett. So, there's a lot of names that we're still going to see and we're still going to hear. But as long as we're doing what we're supposed to on the football field, you're going to hear a lot of names start showing up there, like Virginia Tech, Florida State. Florida State, if that game has anything of what 2 years ago was, I know you were there, that game was rocking. Right, we started the start of that game was, and that's what recruits all talked about. Well, the game was lit, like we had fun, but Miami just dropped the ball. Mm-hmm. That narrative gets flipped this year. Mario Cristobal has unlimited ammunition on the recruiting trail.
Well, I totally agree. 5-7, 7-5. You win 10 at 11 games. It's gonna be you have to beat recruits off with a stick. Let's be perfectly honest. Now everyone wants to come to Miami, and I think that. Like he says, when it's rolling, Marcos said, when it's rolling, and Miami will be rolling real soon. And this is the year. This is the year that I think the Canes really need to make that jump and really need to start rolling. Rasta, I know you're pressed for time. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Any social media handles that you'd like to plug where people can find you or follow you?
So there's a page out there that's Rasta Edits. It was my old one that got hacked. But you can see it's still got the line here. It's got my logo on my new one. So at Rasta Edits on Instagram and the same on Twitter. So I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun. I love getting on, talking Canes. I'll do it anytime, man. Just hit me up.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, right? If you like what you heard, it's a little about recruiting. If you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports. And once again, for Rasta, I am Will. Stay safe. God bless. See you soon. Go Canes, guys. All about the U. Bye-bye, guys.